guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Sneha and I talk about books. Today's video is going to be a mix of a book haul as well as part 2 of my March wrap-up. I was recently in Goa for a vacation and I bought a few books there and I thought I'll show them, and also my second part of the March wrap-up. So in Goa, I shopped majorly in 2 bookshops, and I'll leave the addresses of these places down below in the description box. So please check them out if you happen to be in Goa and support independent bookstores. The first place which I visited was Literati, which is this cafe cum bookstore in Kalangut in North Goa. So the cafe is not operational right now because of COVID, but the bookstore is actually in this really cute little cottage. They have the most beautiful garden out in the front and have a hammock, and it's really pretty. So everybody should pay a visit there. Their collection was okay, I would say, and it was really humid in there, so I didn't get to spend as much time as I would have liked to browsing what they have. First book was is Season of the Songbirds by Nadeem Aslam. This is set in Pakistan and it's my first book that I've ever purchased which is actually set in Pakistan. So I'm really excited to read this. The cover actually caught my eye. It has this really gorgeous cover of birds, and this story is about a sack of letters which are discovered, which have a few hints about the murder of an influential man in a small town in Pakistan. This one was for 350 rupees. The next book which I purchased was Jungle Nama by Amitav Ghosh. I think I mentioned this in previous videos before, but I love Amitav Ghosh. He's actually one of my favorite Indian fiction writers, and this particular book is a poem which is based on a very famous folk tale set in the Sundarbans. It's actually referenced in The Hungry Tide, which is one of my favorite books, and this is kind of like a companion book to The Hungry Tide, so I had to buy it. It is a poem which officially makes it my first poetry book ever. I'm excited to read this, and it's also beautifully illustrated by Salman Toor. So the next place I visited was Broadway Book Center. Now this is in Panaji, also known as Panjim. They had a really good collection, and they also have a really good second-hand section. Also have a really great section on Goan literature, both fiction and non-fiction. The first book which I picked up from there was The Queen of Jasmine Country by Sharanya Manivanan. This is set in Tamil Nadu in a small town in the 9th century, and it's based on a folk tale again from Tamil Nadu, and it's a fictionalized account of how the folk tale came into being. It fictionalizes the life of the devotional poet Andal, and it is written kind of in verse form, and it has a lot of classical poetic references. Cover is really what drew me in. It's gorgeous. It's this purple and blue flowers all over, and it's a hardback. This one was for 400 rupees. The next book which I picked up from Broadway Book Center was Teresa's Man and Other Short Stories from Goa. This one is from Damodar Mozo, but it's translated from the Konkan by Xavier Kota. I wanted to pick up something which is set in Goa because to memorialize the vacation, and the cover looked really interesting, so I picked it up, and I've actually read one story from this, and it's a really simple language of simple people and simple stories, and there's something really quite charming about that. So excited to read this as well, and this one was for 250 rupees. The last book in this haul is Tears of the Giraffe by Alexander McCall Smith. I bought this from the second-hand section of Broadway Book Center, and this one was for 100 rupees. It's a very famous series of a lady detective in Botswana, and I've heard a lot about this series. Always wanted to read this, and when I saw this, and it's in near pristine form, so I picked it up. So yeah, those are all the books that I bought in Goa. Moving on to my March wrap-up part 2. So in the last 2 weeks of March, I ended up reading only 3 books because I had a lot of pending work, and I just didn't feel like reading. I don't know if this is a reading slump or this is just a laziness thing. I just didn't feel like reading too many things, so I ended up reading only 3 things. So the first one is also my first non-fiction of the year, High Time. I read Hunger, a memoir of my body by Roxane. This is a memoir of Roxane where she talks about her traumatic rape at a very young age and how it impacted her relationships with her family, with herself, with her body, and how she started eating food as a defense mechanism to make her body seem unattractive or make it into a fortress, so that nobody will ever take advantage of her like somebody had previously. But now she is a grown woman and she is medically classified as morbidly obese, and she decides to take back her narrative. She decides to fit into a world which seems to have no place for someone who's out of the normal beauty standards imposed by society. And yeah, that's the bare bones plot of it, but the book is so much more. The book is written in really simple language, but it's written with language which has an impact, because she's talking about her life and about her experiences and about her anger at how people perceive her and how people treat her and how she treats herself. She wants to take back her narrative. She wants to get back her self-respect. So when you're reading her words, it's almost like you're having a conversation with her, and it makes you as angry as she is while she's talking about all of this, because I'm sure every woman, I can only speak for women, that you would have felt that you don't fit into this world in some shape or form. You're always made to feel like you have to walk towards this ideal woman with a few particular characteristics and a few particular traits, and you always end up feeling inadequate. But some of her lines were just so amazing that I related to this book in an incredible level, and it's so brutal and it's so honest that it's the best kind of book. Like, you know, there are two kinds of books: one which has the most beautiful lyrical language, which paints a picture, which draws you in, which keeps you in that world and keeps you hooked, and that is a different genre. And then there are books with the most simple basic language which drive across the point, which make you see things in a different way, and it's just the best experience. It's the kind of book that makes reading worth it. It is an education, it is a revelation, it is you relate to it, you get angry by it, you are just charged to action by it. So yeah, I loved the book. It was a 5 on 5 for me. I can't believe it's my first Roxane Gay. I'm definitely going to be reading more of her, hopefully in this year itself, and I'm definitely going to have more coherent thoughts around her writing, for sure. The next book which I finished was Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead by Olga Tokarczuk. Sorry. I did have a physical book of this, but it's in Mumbai, so picture it here. This is a Polish novel, and it's translated into English by Antonia Lloyd-Jones, and this is set in a remote Polish village which is kind of in the woods, and it's also near to the border of the Czech Republic, and it's about this old woman who empathizes and who wants the world to treat animals the way humans are treated, and she is appalled by the hunting and all the abuses that she sees around her, and she's also missing her dog, so she's trying to solve that mystery. But along the way there are a bunch of murders which happen in her town, and she gets mixed up in the investigation surrounding those murders. It's a very beautifully translated novel because the language is really quirky, it's really wholesome in a way, and it really does a beautiful job in explaining how the lady Janina feels about animals, about her interest in astrology, about how she links astrology to events happening in human life. So it's a really, really, really well written translation. I loved the character of Janina. She is so passionate, and she is so knowledgeable about the things which interest her, and she does not care about what society thinks of her, and she does not care about how other people might perceive her to be crazy or whatever, to be expounding on these rules of astrology to explain the death of these men. So I just loved her character. Only thing is that I kind of guessed the twist towards the 75% of the book, because it kind of is really obvious, and it's a very, very obvious twist. That's all I'm going to say, which is why I tweaked my rating a little, but until then I was really enjoying it. And yeah, I would love to read more of this author in particular. So I ended up rating this book 3.5 stars out of 5. The last book which I finished in March was Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshukazu Kawaguchi. This is a Japanese translated novel translated into English by Geoffrey Trosselaw. And I took this book on vacation with me. I was reading this in Goa, and it was just the best time. So this story is about a cafe where you can time travel. There is one particular table in the cafe where you can sit, you have coffee, you get to return into a particular point in the past in that cafe itself. And there are a few other rules related to time travel in this book. And the book is about these 5 to 6 characters who are regulars at the cafe, and about how when they travel back to the past, what happened and how did it impact them in the present and things like that. The translation of this book is so precise, like there's no other way that it can be written though, because this is set in a cafe and things are slow. It's a really sweet little cafe, home family style cafe. There's a very slow, easygoing pace to it, and that's just the best part about this book. There's no action, there's no mystery, there's no thriller aspect to it. It's just a book set in a cafe, but oh, you can time travel in this cafe. So I really enjoyed the pace of the book. It was not complicated at all. It had the most basic language, but there was just something so sweet about it, mainly because of the characters. They're pretty much everyday characters, people with normal problems, which might seem normal in the context of the world, but which actually mean a great deal to them. So really enjoyed this book, ended up rating this 4 on 5, and yeah, the best book to take on vacation. That is the end of this video. Comment down below if you've read any of these books and let me know what you think of them. I'll leave my Instagram handle down below in the description box if you want to check out my reviews of all the books that I read there, and they're more detailed, so you can check that out. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next video.